Hello, YouTubers out there. This is Jerry Saravia to Movies. So today I am briefly reviewing an endurance test of a movie called Terrifier 2, which is a sequel, of course, to Terrifier, directed by Damien Leone, written and directed and edited, by the way, by Damien Leone. And the character also appeared prior to Terrifier in a movie I haven't seen called All Hallows Eve. But to be quite honest, I think I've had more than enough of Art the Clown. So let me just mention one bone of contention that I have with regards to this character. Now, the character is fearsome to look at. It's scary. I mean, this is not something I want to run into in a dark alley. My my litmus test for any horror picture is if the entity or the menace or whatever it is not something you want to run into a dark alley, then it's working. So Art the Clown is a vivid creation. Um, he wears a little black hat. He wears, of course, a clown outfit that's black and white, all sorts of polka dots, black eye makeup. The little top hat has a string that he puts around his head. Black lips, rotted teeth. That's more than enough. And this film is well shot, I will say, for the most part. It's set around Halloween. There's a vivid Halloween party. It's well done. I also like the carnival towards the climax of the movie. It's all well done, well shot, and there's also the little pale girl, a character also known as Emily Crane, which at first, when you see the film, there's a scene in the laundromat where, and the movie's only real high point of some measure of black humor, which it could have used more of, to be honest with you. But he is washing his outfit at a laundromat, which I thought was pretty funny in a way. And there's a guy who's there in the laundromat, and he sees Art the Clown. He's already passed out. I wasn't clear if it was a patron or if he owned the laundromat, but it doesn't matter. And he sees him, playing patty cake with the girl, except he doesn't see the girl. So it looks like Art the Clown's playing patty cake with nobody. So at first I thought it was just a vision that Art the Clown had, which I thought, okay, well, this is an interesting way to start the sequel, despite the very vicious brutality at the beginning. But once you have all that, you don't need much blood and gore. At least I don't think so. To me, it's just terrifying enough to look at this clown character, which was depicted a little bit better, I thought, in the first Terrifier, which I don't really recommend that movie, but there were moments in it that worked. And this movie has a couple of moments, but it is way too long at 2 hours and 18 minutes. And what we have are scenes like, for example, there is Lauren Lavera, who plays Sienna Shaw, and she has a brother named Jonathan, played by Elliot Fulham, and they live with their mother, Barbara Shaw, played by Sarah Voigt. Now, this family dynamic was sort of interesting at first, but it was hard for me to gravitate towards these characters. The son is into serial killers. Sienna keeps talking about and keeps working on her Halloween costume, which includes wings, which you think wouldn't be so difficult to put together, and an attire that looks like a bronze type of bra and everything else. She looks like Xena, warrior princess. And she keeps talking about it. She tells her friends about it. And then, of course, the costume goes up in flames because the candles, they practically incinerate her wings and her costume, and then fire's put out by her mother. And then the mother says, "Oh, how could you do this? How could you leave the candles on? Blah, blah, blah." So there's a lot of that. Then there's the situation with Jonathan, who wants to go out on Halloween dressed as Art the Clown, and of course the mother objects, which is understandable because this character they know had killed somebody. It was a massacre, which you saw in the first movie. And so then the kid is in school, and then it looks like he sees Art the Clown and the little pale girl. And then I thought, well, that's interesting. And there's a dead possum, which some kids are bullying this girl to look at it, and maggots are there and everything else. I mean, you can't expect less in a movie like this, I guess. And then the possum is being played with by Art the Clown and the little pale girl in the hallways of the school. And so he sees that, and they throw the possum at him, and then he gets suspended because he had vandalized the school, which was an interesting way to put it. Vandalize the school with a possum. Okay. So anyway, then we get more scenes of Sienna going to a Halloween shop, and she's going to buy her wings because, of course, they burned. And she finds an ordinary pair of third-rate wings, but I guess they look nice and whatever. Then she goes back to redesigning her costume, I might add. And Halloween, again, is right around the corner. Now, she has two friends in the film, which you see very briefly and which we hardly get to know. Now, that is the kiss of death in a movie that is 2 hours and 18 minutes long. In a 90-minute slasher picture of this kind, I can understand if you don't have much character development. That is somewhat to be expected, right? But this movie seems like it's trying to be better than that, but it's a little schizophrenic because there is some imagination here. There's something to do with this little pale girl, something to do with Art the Clown. Where does he really come from? There's some hint, but we don't know for sure. Then there's Sienna's father, who had died and was mentally disturbed, and he died in a horrific truck crash. So we have all of that, but then there's all this slicing and dicing and disemboweling and removing, people's eyes and plucking them out and then just pulling out bloody, a heart that's still beating. It's just, and there's blood everywhere, blood on the walls, blood. So much blood, in fact, that it was just too much. And one of her friends is killed for almost a full 3 minutes, who we barely get to know. The only thing is, it's the setup. She is in her house, all alone, on Halloween, and she's passing out candy to people. And then, of course, Art the Clown shows up, and he comes in from a van, and he says, he has this big, giant garbage bag, which, of course, he always drags around with him. And it has tools and everything else that he uses to, essentially reduce people to bloody pieces and entrails. And bleh. So he says, "You're too old. It's a nice costume, but you're an adult. I only give candy to children." Of course, he knocks on the door again. Then later on, he breaks in through her house, and then he kills her and mutilates her in ways that it went on for too long. It was a whole 3 minutes of this. And if it's a character we don't really know, then it's really hard to care. I mean, sure, we care a little because it's a human being being slaughtered to death. But after a while, I just thought, what is really the point of all this when we have all this other story that's going on that it kind of just loopholes, start to appear. I mean, it's not, we don't really get to know anything that's going on in this movie. And all it is just serving up the slaughter. Now, the carnival was sort of suspenseful because I wanted Sienna to survive. She's looking for her brother. The little pale girl mimics the brother's voice on the cell phone, which I thought was kind of interesting. But the movie could have used more moments like that, more invocation of the supernatural, and this movie just decides not to do that. It feels that this character was a supernatural being and probably could have other powers, has none, other than the fact that he can't really be killed. And it's just slicing and dicing, slicing and dicing, slicing and dicing. A lot of it. Way too much. In 1986, I thought that one of the goriest movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, that I have seen anyway. Maybe, I'm sure there's gorier. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not really a fan of a whole lot of blood and gore. Well, it's also Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, which is way too bloody, way too much. But this movie is just, it's vicious. And I think that was the difference. It was far too vicious. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 by Tobe Hooper and the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre to a lesser extent, but because there's such feverish intensity, there was also black humor. This movie, except for a couple of moments, all of it is just, there's really no humor whatsoever. I mean, I'm not saying turning it into a black comedy, but some black humor could have helped to deal with the intensity and a little more character development if you're going to make a 2 hour and 18 minute movie. So those are my thoughts. I don't know. The character is scary, and the ending is. I will say it's a little imaginative. It happens after the credits start. It's one of those things, post-credit scene. But I can't really say anyone should really see this movie unless you like an endurance test and see how much you can manage to, how long you can stare at the screen before averting your eyes. And there were just moments that I said, this is way too much even for me. So I can't really say go see this movie. If you like an endurance test, that's fine. But it seems like this was going to be, or could have been, a really imaginative, supernatural horror film. And all it is just, at the end of the day, it's just a slasher. And not really the best of its kind. But there are some frightening moments. Too few, but there are some. So those are my thoughts. I did this as a quick review, so I don't know. Just let me know what you think out there. I don't have my usual opening, but that's okay. What did you think of Terrifier 2, or the first Terrifier, or All Hallows Eve? Or is the blood and gore really the new level of entertainment for this type of movie? I mean, to the degree of what is shown with viciousness and bestiality. Is this really what people want to see? And granted, the fact that the film cost $250,000 and made 15.1 million, it seems like this is what people want to see. So I don't know. I'm just out of the loop, I guess. But there could have been more story. It looks like it was hinting at more story, and then it just deviates from that completely. But those are my thoughts. Let me your thoughts. I did pick up about 3 or 4 more subscribers, so thank you. I hope you people keep subscribing if you like what you hear. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.